Hello, lovely people. It's Leah. Welcome to another video. Today we are doing something kind of new. I am taking some old pieces of clothing and I am upcycling them. I am thrift flipping them. And basically what this means is taking an old piece of clothing and turning it into something new. This is something I do all the time with old stuff in my closet I don't wear anymore, things that I find at thrift stores. This shirt actually was given to me white and I don't really wear white, so I dyed it red, an example of a thrift flip. And the upcycles that we have to do today aren't terribly challenging and are definitely things that you can do at home as well. So let's see the clothing that we are upcycling. First, we are going to work on a couple t-shirts. This one t-shirt I have is from Cleaver Clothing. If you know Spencer Charnas from Ice Nine Kills, that is his clothing company. And I really love this graphic so much. The upside down cross, I love the colors, but I'm not really a big t-shirt person. I feel like they make me feel boxy. So we're gonna rock star this one up a little bit, just simply by using scissors. No sew required, super, super easy. And for this other t-shirt, don't mess with the princess. Sort of the same situation. I love the graphic on this, but I'm not a big t-shirt person. And I feel like there is a more interesting way to display a graphic like this. So we're gonna do something with the sleeves and the shoulders just to elevate it a little bit. And the last shirt we're going to work on today is this men's dress shirt. Again, super boxy, doesn't really fit me, but olive green, one of my favorite colors to wear. I could not part with this shirt. So we're gonna make it a little edgier. And in my opinion, the style that we're going for with this is a little bit androgynous. I feel like it's very typical to take a men's dress shirt and just say, this is androgynous, this sack of clothing that I'm putting you in, but I think that there are other ways to be androgynous that kind of toes the line between feminine and masculine rather than just going straight masculine and saying like this is androgynous. And the plan I have for this shirt definitely falls more on the feminine side of androgyny, which is a place I love to live in. And just to note, all three of the upcycles that I'm doing on these shirts today are inspired by a BLueprintDIY. That is another YouTube channel, and she really inspires a lot of my upcycling projects, and these three shirts are no different. You can find versions of them on BLueprintDIY as well. Moving on to the bottoms that we're going to be working on. This skirt I actually thrifted in my Sandy thrift video, where I went to this giant thrift store just outside of Las Vegas. I found this skirt with the intention of hemming it. Right now it's just too long. I mean, the slip underneath is longer than the skirt even is, and I just think this will be so much more my style if I make it a little bit shorter, more of a mid-thigh cut rather than a knee cut. I do love a knee-length skirt, but I just think this particular skirt is a little ratty on the bottom and it could do with a little crop. And last but not least, these pants. I thrifted these a long time ago with the intention of also hemming them. But the problem is there's already a big hem on the bottom of the pants. And because the fabric is not double-sided, this isn't just an easy cut off the bottom, flip the hem up and rehem the bottom, because then the fabric is going to look inside out. So I'm actually going to keep the bottoms the way they are. And the way I'm going to hem these pants to make them shorter is I'm going to cut them in the middle. I've been really inspired by tech wear recently, and these pants came with a tech wear style belt, which I'm going to try to emulate throughout these pants. So we are going to cut them into shorts. We are going to add buckles to the shorts that will then attach to buckles I place on the bottom parts of the pants. And we'll have a cool tech wear style pant that is no longer too long. And I'm very, very excited to give these pants a try. Now that is everything that we're going to be upcycling in this video. Spoiler alert, one of them is going to fail, but we'll save that for later in the video. So let's get started with the upside down cross shirt from Cleaver Clothing. The first thing I'm going to do is lay the shirt down flat. I'm just using this mat underneath for a little bit of stability when I use the chalk. Then I'm sort of just eyeballing where I want to cut the shirt underneath the graphic, measuring that, marking that with with chalk and then taking that measurement and adding 2 more marks along the side of the shirt. And then we'll just cut the bottom right off. You're going to see this technique repeated a few times. Then to edge this shirt up a little bit and make it more rock star, we are going to cut out one of the shoulders. And I'm just freehanding this with a piece of chalk. And once you cut out the shape, you just cut along the neckline and you have a nice cutout in your shoulder. And last but not least, the armhole on the opposite arm, we are going to cut about 1 inch in on the sleeve hole. I use clips to keep the 2 pieces of fabric in place. And you are gonna cut along that line, leaving about 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So you don't wanna cut off the entire armhole. You just wanna cut off a piece so it's got a rip in it. And we'll have the big reveals for each clothing item at the end of the video. Next, we will work on the princess shirt. So I said we're going to be doing something with the arms, with the shoulders. We're actually going to be adding shoulder pads to this shirt. So you wanna pick a shirt that's a little bit bigger than you so that the shoulder of the shirt goes past your natural shoulder. So you'll have that nice exaggerated shoulder once you put the shoulder pad in. The first thing you're gonna do is cut off a part of the sleeve. You wanna go about 1.5 inches in from where the armpit is and then cut straight up. So you're leaving a good amount of fabric on the shoulder, just cutting away the tightest part. And now we have open seams on the shoulder where we cut those lines. So what you're gonna do is you're going to fold the open hem in on itself. So the hem is now hidden, it's no longer visible, and then you wanna sew that down. T-shirts don't fray very easily, so you can do this without sewing at all. For the next steps, you would just glue the shoulder pads into place, but because I know how to sew, I'm going to be doing a sewing method. And if rolling the seam onto itself didn't make a lot of sense to you, don't worry. On the men's dress shirt, there is another item of clothing where we will go a little bit deeper into how to hem your loose edges. But for now, let's get these shirt edges hemmed down. And once they are all hemmed, it is time to add the shoulder pads. I put the shirt onto my dress form and I put the shoulder pads into place. You really want the edge of that shoulder pad to line up with the sewing seam where the sleeve meets the rest of the shirt. That is the shoulder line, and that's where you want the shoulder pad to sit. And then all that extra fabric that we just sewed, we're gonna fold underneath. And it should cover majority of the shoulder pad. Then I'm going to take some pins and I'm going to pin the shoulder pad into place. And we're going to do some hand sewing just along this seam once we get the other shoulder pad into place. And now time for the hand sewing. As I said, you just want to add some stitches down this seam, which will keep the shoulder pad in place. And it will also keep that fabric that we rolled back into the shirt in place as well. And we'll reveal what that shirt looks like at the end of the video as well. All right, here's a little bonus upcycle. Do you have shirts from bachelorette parties, bar mitzvahs, themed birthday parties? The best way to continue utilizing all of these shirts that we accumulate is to do a fun little upcycle. Now for me, I'm about to go on a cruise with a bunch of friends. We decided to do a themed night for my friend's 30th birthday party, and the theme is retirement, because we're hilarious like that. So we all bought these t-shirts, cruising through life, one port at a time, so funny. But we all decided that we wanted to cut them a little bit. A different method that you can take for hemming a t-shirt that you're cutting into a crop top is to actually sew down the seam once you cut it. But as I said, t-shirts don't really fray. So for this, I'm not going to take that option. Instead, I'm going to crop this the same way that I cropped the cleaver shirt. I eyeballed where I wanted to cut it. I measured that, marked it with chalk, marked 2 other lines along the t-shirt. T-shirts are one thing I feel like you don't have to be so accurate with because the fabric is so stretchy. Most of the shirts aren't sewed evenly anyway. Like you can see on one side here, it flares out a lot more. So just do your best. And one little touch I'm going to add to this shirt is rolling up the sleeves. So I'll do a double roll, but I find that if you don't sew it down, it unravels all the time. So I'm just going to add a little sew line at the top of the sleeve here, and then at the bottom of the sleeve underneath the armpit there, just to keep that fold in place. And now I have a cute little customized shirt for my themed cruise night. Now back to the main upcycles. So that hemming method I just talked about with the cruise shirt, I'm going to implement with this skirt. This fabric definitely feels like one that would fray super easily and would pull really easily. So I want to be very careful when I'm cutting it, and I absolutely want to hem the edges. This is not like a t-shirt that will not fray if you just leave the edges open. So I measured the skirt on my body, just sort of took an eyeball measurement, and I found that where the skirt sort of splits open in the back of the skirt, just above that is the length that I want to hem it. So I'm going to fold that over and then clip it all around the edge to keep that hem where it is. I also tried this on before sewing it just to make sure it was actually the correct length I wanted it to be. And once I'm finished with the outside layer of the skirt, I'm going to repeat these steps with the slip underneath. So now that that's all clipped and ready to go, time to go to the sewing machine. The first sewing line that I'm going to sew is directly on the edge of the hem. And once we have this hem in place, we are going to cut all the excess off the skirt and close the hem on the inside, and I'll show you how to do that. To cut off all the excess fabric, we are going to be using pinking shears. These shears create a zigzag edge which prevents massive fraying. So when I cut the excess fabric off, I left about an inch of extra fabric. Now I'm folding it in on itself like we did before with the princess t-shirt, and I'm sewing an extra line along the bottom of the skirt to finish off the hem and keep those frayed edges hidden. And then repeating the exact same process with the inner skirt. Time for the pants, the item I am the most excited about. The first thing I'm going to do is cut these pants into shorts. I just put them on my body and sort of eyeballed where I wanted to cut them, which is the theme of this video. I really did just eyeball these cuts, but I made sure that the pants were very flat on the ground to make sure that it was being cut as evenly as possible without being terribly precise. Then the next thing I wanted to do before getting into adding the buckles or anything like that is hem the edges of the shorts. So we use the same method. We fold the end piece in about an inch, and then we fold that inch in on itself again so that the frayed edges are on the inside. And this time I actually decided to try and iron down these edges, because when you create that crease with the iron, it then becomes easier when you go to your sewing machine to sew straight lines. The problem was the iron wasn't really working at the heat setting it was recommending, so I used my straightener instead. And honestly, it did work, but I still kept the clips in place just for extra security that everything was going to be flat and even and ready to be sewed. And the sewing. This is where I ran into my first issue. The needle was not passing all the way through the fabric, and the sewing machine was dropping stitches left and right. Well, it's about time we ran into a problem. I did those t-shirts too easily without any disruption. But being on brand with me, there always has to be something that goes wrong. And of course, it's like the hero piece of this video. Though the t-shirt with the shoulder pads, I'm very happy with how that came out. But the pants, this was the thing I was the most excited about. And I'm having an issue with my sewing machine. The fabric of this pant is too thick for my sewing machine. I did attempt a different needle because there are different needle types for different fabric types. I don't necessarily understand it. I'm just a novice who bought a sewing machine and taught myself and will occasionally look to YouTube for how to do something. It was suggested to try a different needle. I went to Joann's, I talked to someone, I bought a different needle. It actually was worse. And there's also a chance it could just be my sewing machine. So 2 options. One, I could give up on the pants altogether, pivot, pick a new hero item for the video, or I could get in a very meditative state and do some hand sewing. It's a lot to hand sew, but I used to hand sew everything, and I think I've got a pretty steady hand for it. It's definitely not as pretty, it's not as sturdy, but you can make it really clean. And I think that's one thing I lack with a sewing machine is I have a very, very hard time keeping the lines straight and even. But when I'm hand sewing, I'll do it really, really well and be meticulous. So that's one upside to the fact that I have to hand sew this. Unfortunately, it's like 10 minutes on the sewing machine versus like 2 hours hand sewing, because it's kind of a big project, but I'm listening to a good audiobook right now. If you know Sarah J. Maas and the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, I'm currently listening to it on YouTube, and it's so fun. Kelly got me into the books. I read all of them, and now I got my friend Diana into them, and she's rereading them, and she recommended I reread them in audiobook form, and it's been very fun. So I'm gonna put that on. I'm gonna hand sew this, and I'm gonna try not to lose my mind, because this is gonna take a long time. Okay, I'm giving up. Oh, it's too much. I cannot hand sew that entire thing. There's no way. I gotta figure it out. I'm gonna put it aside for another day. So take two soon. I have an idea. I just don't have time to get the materials that I need. So instead, I have a men's dress shirt that needs to be upcycled, and I think that could be fun. So the pants, the hero piece, the piece I was the most excited about, that is the piece that unfortunately failed. I'm not giving up on them yet. You definitely will see them again. I have a solution on how I can get those sewed, and you can bet I'm definitely going to be upcycling more clothing, so stay tuned for that in the future to see how the pants turn out. And now for the last item that now you know did not fail. This will be a success, the men's dress shirt, turning it into an edgy androgynous top. So the next thing you want to do is measure across your chest and then add 3 inches to that measurement. So for me, the total was 15 inches. You're going to cut that number in half, 7.5, and then using the button line as the center, you're going to measure 7.5 on either side of the button and mark that with chalk. And that's gonna be your cutting line. And you're going to do that all the way down the shirt. But hold on to those edge pieces with the sleeves, you're going to need them later. Now this shirt, the iron actually was working, and I was able to iron down those edges, which is great because this is another type of fabric that does fray really easily. I made sure to use my pinking shears, and I was really able to get some nice creases into those edges. Before I sewed the shirt, I tried it on because I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do with the side pieces. Did I want to do a full panel from the top of my bra line to the top of my waist? Did I just want to cinch it at the bottom? Did I just want to cinch it at the top? I decided in order to save the sleeves of the shirt, which I could totally use for another upcycle, I was just going to use the extra pieces down here, create a thinner band, and just have the band kind of cover my bra line, is essentially where we were looking for the side pieces to go. And then the rest of the side was just going to be open. But before we put those into place, let's sew down these ironed edges. This was definitely the easiest to sew of all of the projects, and using the iron made my life so much easier. Now we've got the small side pieces. Again, big fan of eyeballing, so I put it on my dress form, eyeballed where I thought the pieces would go, tried it on myself a few times, moved it around until I got the perfect placement, and I'm really happy with how it looks. Honestly, I'm happy with how everything turned out. I'm sad the pants didn't work, but we have a ton of great items, and here is the reveal of all the clothing we upcycled. I'm already so excited to wear this cleaver shirt. I think the style that I cut it in really fits the graphic so well. The princess shirt might honestly be my favorite makeover. This is an upcycle I've been wanting to do for a really long time. I have a few other t-shirts I think it will work well with, and it's a fun way to elevate a regular t-shirt. And the last of the shirts, this edgy top that we've got here. I think it's so fun. I love the way that it shows off my tattoos. And it was the perfect upcycle for that big, oversized, boxy men's t-shirt. And thank you to BLueprintDIY for all of these t-shirt upcycles. I appreciate you and your channel and all of your creativity. The skirt, a very easy hemming project. You can't even really see the lines that I sewed, so if they're not straight, people aren't gonna notice, which is pretty good. As long as the hem is straight, everything should be good. Well, thank you so much for joining me for another video. I had so much fun upcycling these items of clothing, and I have so much more where that came from. Let me know in the comments below which upcycle was your favorite, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. Subscribing, liking the video, and commenting helps this video reach more people so that we can grow our community. On this channel, you can find cosplay, home decor, horror, and more. My name is Leah, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.
Let it go. 얼어붙어 like whoa. 띵하고 어지러워. I see. 한여름에도 난 겨울. Yeah, got cold blood. Yeah, 너와 있을 때 I swear. 제가 먼저 zero 폭설한 그 chill there.